A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, Constitutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Buddy, welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Guest Day Drops. You know I don't script shows, folks. If this is your first show, I don't script. I do have a few notes, and I purposely don't want to know a lot about my guest because it leads to more natural conversation that way. Before I officially introduce and bring on the guest, I'm going to read just a part of what he sent in as setup. It says, I am a politician, business owner, biologist, chemist, bouncer, bartender, philosopher, psychologist. I like to joke, I'm not psychic, I'm psychotic. but football coach, former drug dealer, oh, we definitely got to go there. Comedian, oh, I definitely want to go there too. Podcaster and general wild child that just wants to make the world a better place by creating laws that work in a way that benefits everyone. Amen to that, brother. And so welcome to the show, Charlie Thompson. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be anywhere, obviously.
Yeah. That's a lot. That crams a lot. There's a lot to unpack here now.
I've done a lot of things of expertises where, I actually was coaching college football. When I was a kid, I grew up a drug dealer. I'm actually, that's my big thing, is to be a politician because I want to be president. I want to show the world there's something better than what we've seen the last 40, 50, 60, 100 years.
And I've had several people on that indeed were into drugs and whatnot. A ne'er-do-well that saw the light and wants a better life, not for themselves, but for everyone. That's part of your story, too.
Absolutely. I'll tell you this. One thing about being a drug dealer is you see people who are misled out of society, who are kind of outcasts. You see the people who have the mental trauma, physical trauma. They have horrible stories in their life. They had bad parenting and this and that. And these are things that good laws, if we have people working together and doing the right things, we can actually eliminate from society. It's just something you can do. And you see that firsthand when you're in that life and you're in the streets and you see the people who are on the lower side of the world, who have been kicked too many times. And you realize if you can improve everybody's life, if you just using good logic, using good information and trying to do the right thing ethically.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that. There's a lot of bad politicians out there who are all about them. Power and control. They don't want things better. They want the excuse of the issue to continue to perpetuate and say, oh, I didn't get it fixed yet, but elect me again and elect me again and elect me. It's never about
They're crisis actors.
Yeah.
They're just crisis actors. The reality is, I tell people there's two types of political figures. There's politicians, people who will lie to you so you can elect them so they can use that platform to cheat and steal from you. And there are public servants, people who tell you the truth, who you elect, who will go up there and do those things to better your life. One group goes up there to better themselves, the politicians, and one goes to better the people, the public servants. I've always been a public servant.
I hear you. I've run for office many times myself. Hence the show Constitutionalist Politics, about biblical community, which is free will that God gave us. We are to want to be our brother's keeper versus leftist, commie, fascist, sociis, as I call them. It's all about their power, their control,
Actually, I think both sides have the same problem. Don't tell me the far right isn't the same way of our way versus screw everybody else. They've been pushing that same narrative in a whole different direction.
A
Both
lot
of
of
them are
bad
playing a lot of that
politicians on the
politics stuff.
right too. Yes,
It's a
I'm not
whole
here to
system.
be rah rah
No,
rah rah
yeah,
for
me
my
either.
side.
But
Yeah,
I'm saying both sides have these same types of individuals doing the same garbage and not benefiting the American people. And that's the end game, is not benefiting the American people is the part that matters.
yeah, I agree with you. We have far too many left and right in that former about themselves, a politician, than the latter, actual real public service, as our founders saw our republic, not a mobocracy, not an ineptocracy, not a kleptocracy that we've been turning into, but a actual public servant representative republic. You go to serve for a bit, then you get your ass back home and live a real life in the private sector. Politics is never meant to be a lifelong career that we've allowed them, because it is we the people in big bold letters, but we the people have shirked our duty and let them.
This all comes down to a simple thing. The Constitution was written with the idea that the average person would have ethics. That was its first thing. You're going to have ethics.
Adams said, yeah.
Without somebody saying, no, you're going to have ethics or there'll be consequences, they don't have ethics. That's where the problem went. And I mean, I'm all for term limits. I'm for age limits. Remember, there used to be age limits. 65 was the number. They elected Reagan, and because he was older, they changed the laws to get rid of that age cap. Strom Thurmond, he didn't retire. He died in office at 100. We've got guys in how many people in office in Congress now in their 80s and 90s?
Same with Robert Byrd, yeah.
How do they relate to me? I'm in my 40s. How do they relate to a person in their 20s? They don't. You're supposed to be making laws for these people's next 20, 30, 40 years of their life. You don't relate to any of them.
You need a blend of each generation together to make the laws, to hash it out for the benefit of the most, right? The common good. The left loves to use that as a dodge. Oh, for the greater good. Whenever that comes out of their mouth, it's all about what they're going to get out of it. It's never for the greater good. It's just the language twisting dodge. So, yeah, this is a constitutional show, not a Republican show. I criticize plenty of Republicans. There are very few on the left that are worthy of any praise, unfortunately. But yeah, there are far too many on the right needing of criticism too. And I always say, principles, not personality. I'm not here to wear our team hat, rah, rah, rah.
I never worry about what your policies are until I know who you are as a person. If I find out you have principles and you have ethics, I'm going to look at you a lot different, even if I don't agree exactly with your platform. I want to know I'm going to have honest people, honorable people who's going to be and have integrity and have ethics. That's what I care about first. What you're for is secondary to that. And, people, and not to mention that platform can be a lie.
Yeah.
That platform could be a true and be a bad true. But if you have ethics and principle, you're going to more often than not work for a better answer to the question.
Yeah. And you triggered in a good way, thoughtful, not the, oh my God, you hurt my feelings, snowflake trigger way. But 3 things. Results. I don't give a damn about your hot air. What are the results? You shall be known by your fruits, not your empty rhetoric. The other thing about morals and integrity, Adams said, our Constitution is only valid and good for a ethical, honest, moral, religious peoples. And we've lost that. And the third thing, to go with what you said, Martin Luther King Jr., content of character. I don't give a damn what your skin pigmentation is, where you're from originally, where you live now. What is your character? And again, you have good moral character or you're a slime ball.
That's it. And as I said, you can see that's in both sides. That's in every side in this conversation. And it's in politics. Absolutely. It's in our business, and let's not say it's in our clergy too. How many clergy do we know are over here preaching against the things that Jesus preached, or preaching against, or going down for pedophilia and child porn and things like that, or are literally pushing for certain political agendas and stuff? It's like, whoa, none of this is supposed to be what Christ talked about. You just using it to manipulate people at this point.
Well, I stay biblically rooted. I speak out against commie, fasci, sociis, as I call them, because they're not biblically based. They're fake Christian. Christ is quoted as saying in Matthew, vipers, snakes, false guides. There will always be fake Christians for their own power and control. Biblical community is free will. God gave us free will. We are to want to be our brother's keeper. Communism is about theft and force. That's not biblical. I'm about not left, right, Republican, Democrat, but biblical.
I would say you've got to separate the socio from the economic part. Communism is just an economic idea. The question you got to look at is who's running it. That's the problem. It doesn't we're supposed to be a capitalist society. If you look at the laws we're passing, we're not passing capitalist laws. We're passing corruptionist laws and corporatist laws that don't benefit actual capitalism and leverage the system. That means we're not playing by capitalists, we're playing by corruptionists. What's doing that? Corrupt people. The problem is the corrupt people running them, screwing them all up. They're the people pushing it.
I'm going to
put bad leadership. Bad leadership.
I'm going to push back on you a little here. There's a reason why communism failed on our continent. The Bradford Colony, the Mayflower Compact was a commonwealth, a socialist communism concept where everybody owned everything equally. They almost all starved to death. Communism fails everywhere it's tried because of human nature is to be lazy.
Well, here's the thing. Everything has to have guide rails. For me, I think of the world like this. All needs should be socialized and all wants capitalized upon. Look, if you're willing to work a full-time job, you should have the dignity of a place to live, clothes on your back, and food on the table. And there's a bunch of people working full-time jobs, two full-time jobs, and not having that. That's corruption. And that is a problem. At the same time, you can't have ultra uber billionaires taking food out of everybody's mouth for their own greed. You can't have that. As long as you have greed, you're going to have need. So the key is to get rid of need, and then y'all can fight for whatever's left. That's not greed, because you'll never get that to that extent, because the needs are met. The system we have is, as I said, corrupted. And that's the key, is I want to make sure I change that and look at the world as it should be. Needs, socialized, wants, capitalized upon. We need a fire department. Obviously, the people need to pay it, because when you didn't, we saw it happen in New York. They had 2 fire departments. They would steal everybody's stuff and then charge them money to get it back. They became corrupt because they didn't have a guardrail. That's the whole point. If you can get people's needs met, then they have a safety net. It makes them more likely to try then. If I fail, but I've got this money, I'm gonna build me a business. If I fail, I just go back to minimum wage, but at least I can live. Right now, it's you. If you want to build a business, you've got to risk everything you got. And if you lose, you're on the street. And now you're going to jail the second you're sleeping on the street, because that's against the law. You see that how that can be a downward spiral. So you're not going to take the same risk. I want risk takers. I want the cream to rise to the top. Well, they have to have a chance to rise to the top. That's what this is all about.
Well, I'm going to push back on you again a little bit about Marxism. Cultural Marxism is what's invaded the church even. I'm born and raised Catholic, but this is not a Catholic show. If we argue about denominations, Satan wins, Christ doesn't. But I call the Pope Francis the nincompoop. He's more interested in communism, worldly communism, than Catholicism. So cultural Marxism, it was one of their aims through social issues to infiltrate, to help bring about communistic rule. And you mentioned poor people. Jesus said, the poor will always be among you. And that's not an economic statement. That's a political governance statement. It's a human nature statement. There will always, like I said about Bradford Colony, there will always be lazy people who refuse to help themselves, want others to do everything for them.
if you have the proper guardrails in place, those people don't exist. Okay. But that doesn't mean you're getting rid of the idea of community. That doesn't mean you're getting rid of the idea of socialism. It's just now incorporated into a way. You have people really hurting. When people hurt, they start robbing and stealing. Most people are not criminals by nature. They're criminals out of necessity. So that means when you create more people with need, you're creating more criminals. That's a problem with society. You don't have to have poor. Jesus is wrong about that, because if you find out more ways to make money, eventually you will have enough society equality and economics to make where need can go away. There are lazy people. There will always be lazy people.
That's what Jesus was saying.
But that's not the person
you and he just said the same thing.
Well, me and him are the same person. We've always been the same person. That's just the way it is. But
and the other thing is money. The Bible says not money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil.
Well, you know what evil actually is? Greed. Not just greed, but greed of power. Power itself is what corrupts. Power is Satan. The idea of power itself is Satan, because it is what corrupts people. The more money you have is how you count how much power you have. Look at the people with the most money. They seem to be doing a lot of evil things lately, you know? And again, that's because one is the other. Man's enemy is not some guy with horns. It's power. It's our own greed of power. It's our biggest enemy. It's always been our biggest enemy. That's the devil in every man. You've got to beat that. Absolute power tends to corrupt, and absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. That's just a fact of life.
Again, that's an adage that's always true. And again, you said Jesus is wrong. Boy, are you going to piss some people off with that. I say you're saying the same thing, just differently. Because, yes, there will always be lazy people. And that's why, again, communism failed at the Bradford colony. Moore said, if I'm going to get equal food, if I'm going to get roof over my head, I'm not going to do anything. And sooner or later, Atlas shrugs.
That's absolute socialism, communism. I don't believe in absolute capitalism. I don't believe in absolute socialism. That's why I say mine is needs should be socialized, wants capitalized upon, because mine's more of a combined system. Because look, people that we need to get their needs met. There's people that need medication to live. We need to make sure they're getting that medication. They can't be charging $5,000 just for a life-saving anything. We need those people surviving. We need people making money. We need people able to go to work. If I have a man who's got 2 broken legs and can't get medical help, guess what he's not going to be able to do again? Walk. If he can't walk, he can't work. Now I have another freeloader who's not even a freeloader. He's not even lazy. But it's because of a system that didn't help him. And you know what's funny? What I just said right there, that's actually socialism. It's just how you don't, it's not everybody gets the same money. It's you work this hard, you get this money. You work this hard, you get this money. You didn't work at all, you get this money. This is what you get because this is enough to live on. That's all you get. You make it a meritocracy, but at least with a safety net. That's what I'm looking at.
No, you went exactly where I was going to go next. Everyone I know as Christians, we believe in, again, be our brother's keeper. We believe in a safety net, not a safety hammock for the lazy.
Fair.
Because the Bible also says there's a difference between the unwilling and the unable. I have no obligation to the unwilling.
Absolutely. I don't believe nobody should have. Those that are unwilling to help us, you're on your own. We were supposed to be working as a society. What does that mean? First, working, and second, society. Working, putting an effort, society together. Those two words.
I want to get off the heavy stuff. You said you're a comedian, and I'm known as Jokester Joe on the Savage Unfiltered show. I'm the lame pun king. So all of the wordplay and the lame puns. Like here's one of my jokes. That's a Joe original. It's in my Terror Strikes book that was copyrighted originally in 2006. A Viagra joke. Guy walks into a bar, says, "Give me a Coke with a Viagra in it." The bartender looks, because you're a bartender too, so this will work for you. Bartender looks at him kind of funny, so he says, "I need a really stiff drink." Ba-dum-bum. Right? So let's talk about you as a comedian. Let's get a little lighter.
My comedy is actually super dark because I'm very, I have a very dark personality in nature. So like, like I like to make little quips and stuff. Like I'm right now working security at a club, And this guy told this girl he wants to taste her, you know. And I told her what she should tell him, and she told him. And I don't know how verbal you want me to get on the show, but is it
careful? It's a Christian show.
Yeah, I'm not trying. But the gist of what I told her to say that if you want to taste me, then you're gonna have to put your mouth on another man's.
Oh,
He went pale white in the face. Everybody just busted out laughing on him, and I'm just like, I thank you.
No, that's good. That's perfect. But yeah, I'm glad you PG'd it for the show. But
I'm not trying to offend anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not a person I don't believe in PC myself, because I believe in freedom of speech all the way. But I don't want to sit here and mess with your show. I know you have a way you do your show, and I want to make sure I adhere to that.
Yeah. Well, hey, like I say, I'm Jokester Joe on Savage Unfiltered, but I have people approach me to say, I can hardly believe you're a Christian because I hear you on Savage Unfiltered, and wow, the stuff comes out your mouth sometimes, right?
I feel
that's like different things for different places. They all have a season.
Like this, though. I feel like any limitation of your own speech and own thought will eventually cause your own corruption. I think you have to be open with yourself and who you are, and open with the world you see, even if it is a little vulgar. Because that's the more honest way to look at it. When you hinder your speech, you're hindering also sometimes the way you think, which can be a way for somebody to take advantage of you in a situation.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.
Okay, and another joke that's in my Terror Strikes book, a Shakespeare joke. To be or not to be is truly the question. Because if it's to be, I got bingo!
I always say that the one I like about Shakespeare is when he said, to thy own self be true. Because you got to be honest with yourself. Because that's how you become an authentic person. If you're not honest with yourself, then you can really mess your own life up. Yeah, I got some weird jokes in here. I'm just trying to look for them.
I was going to ask you. That was my next question. Do you, again, there are some uptight Christians. This is not meant to be an uptight Christian show. But with that in mind, what are some jokes that are your favorites you could share to some of the audience that might get easily offended?
As a bouncer, I've had a lot of times where people weren't dressing certain ways. Like, I had a dress code and they had an unbuttoned shirt. Well, this one guy had an unbuttoned shirt and a cowboy hat. And I'm 6'7", 275 pounds. And this dude was about 6'4", so he's a big man. And I walked by him and tapped him on the shoulder. I'm like, honey, homeboy, if you don't button up that shirt, you might turn me on and I'm going to have to save a horse and ride a cowboy. Hey, boys, he went full white. I'm sorry, brother. He buttoned up that shirt so fast. I couldn't help it. I was trying to say it with a straight face, but even I busted out laughing at the end of it because it was just too funny.
That's perfect. That's a perfect setup and a perfect response to deal with a situation in a lighthearted way. Yeah, that's of course for those who don't.
I'm some big violent guy. I'm big, but I'm not violent. So I try to make it humorous.
For those who don't know, that's the Brooks and Dunn song, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, which is a tongue-in-cheek, fun, funny kind of song.
Yeah, things like that are what I do. I make jokes like that. One dude was like, how do I get a job there? Somebody's got to like you. He just looked at me like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, somebody's going to like you. I don't think you're getting a job here.
I got to go into you're a chemist. So, and you're a former drug dealer. So wink, wink, nod, nod. I'm only joking when I say, can I get my drugs from you? And by that, I mean like ivermectin and stuff. Can you brew that up for me?
No, those things like that take extreme amounts of money that I don't have. But reality is, when I was a kid, I was the drug dealer. And as I said, I got through college. and then I did some work, but then I became a drug dealer again because it was side money. You know, in this world, that's kind of the thing. You got to have money, and that was an issue. So I went back to it for a little bit. But no, I have never made illegal narcotics. I have been asked on multiple occasions, hey, man, can you do this for me? I know you have a college degree in biology. I know you have your BS in biology and your BS in biology and chemistry. Can you make this? I'm like, if you give me the equipment and you give me the recipes and things necessary, I absolutely can. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying. I don't want to be making methamphetamine. I don't want to be making this, things like that. It's just.
That goes back to inner morality, though, too.
Yeah.
You don't want to make things that harm people.
Yeah. I'm not that guy. So no, I've never made those type of things. I have the ability. Yes, I have the knowledge. I know how to use the equipment, but I'm not ever going to do that.
Well, again, another perfect example of my show, why I don't want to know much about my guests and why I don't script shows. We go down whatever rabbit holes open. And again, I think this is a better show for it, as opposed to, like, I like to joke, I'm an author, so I have several books. I get invited on the shows to talk about my books. And it's like nothing more boring than a show like, welcome to the book show. Tell us about your book. Oh, God almighty, you're going to put everybody to sleep.
I mean, the questions I have about that is that it shows that they probably didn't read the book, because they would have had specific questions about your book. Like, I want to know certain thing. I read your book, and here's something I want to know if you can give me a little more on, because it makes it a little more interactive. It gives them a chance to get some in depth. I've had ones that just ask a simple question and okay. And it's
yes,
like,
no
interaction. Yeah, no interaction. And I'm making great points or points that they, it's like, I want to hear opinions. We're trying to be communicating. We're supposed to be putting on a,
two-way discussion. Yes,
absolutely. And so, I mean, I think with how many podcasts and things I've been on and, and guests, I start seeing difference in how people do things. And, and most everyone invites me back. And I've been on multiple ones that are political, multiple ones about my sports, multiple about being authentic as a human being, things that I think would be better for society. How I look at being a better human every day, a better person for my friends, my family, the world in general.
Well, let me put you on the spot now, because I don't know exactly when this will air. It'll be months in the future, right? So that big game that you're not supposed to say the name or they might sue you, right? The Chiefs and the Eagles. Let me put you on the spot. Who do you think will win? And by then you'll either be proven wrong or right already. What are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts have been since the first day of the season, until somebody can beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs, I just don't believe it can be done. His numbers in the playoffs are fantastic. That defense has one of the best defensive lines. They always win the line of scrimmage. This is the one matchup that is intriguing, because if that vaunted offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles, they have the number 2 defense, number 1 left tackle in football, the number 2 right tackle in football, the number 3 center. So they have a number 1 unit, and they have a top 3 back in the game. McCaffrey being injured, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley. If they can get that run game started, they can absolutely play with the Chiefs. 100%. I mean, 2 years ago, they were away from
the Lions. The Lions have beat the Chiefs a couple times in the last few years. But not in the playoffs.
That's the part when it matters. Look at the Bills. The Bills have a winning record against the Chiefs in the last 5 years in the regular season. Can't win a playoff game. 0-4. That team in the playoffs plays perfect situational football. They play cerebral. They don't make penalties. They don't turn the ball over. Offensively and defensively, they win the line of scrimmage. And if they do what they normally do, I have it. Chiefs are going to win. And I have it as Mahomes is going to get the last points to get the lead. It's just how it goes.
I kind of see it the same way.
I think
we could be proven wrong. The Eagles could win.
Oh, they absolutely could win
if it lines up right. But
but I think the closest anybody had to beating the Chiefs in the playoffs was last year in the Super Bowl, when the Niners had them arguing with each other. If the Niners would have scored a touchdown early in that third quarter, they would have broken the Chiefs mentally, and they would have folded. They were showing the signs of folded, and then they had the bad third quarter with no passes, with no runs, and then they had the botched punt return, which got the Chiefs a touchdown and got them back in the game, and that changed the momentum of that game. And even then, the Niners still got 3 leads in the fourth quarter and in overtime and just couldn't finish the game. I don't know if Philadelphia can get that much because I think the Bills were better than Philadelphia matching up with the Chiefs.
I don't disagree with that either. And normally I wouldn't go there with a guest, but since you were a football coach,
I'll
like,
tell you my football background.
I'll talk about bread and circus.
Mm-hmm.
You need occasional distractions that
absolutely.
game. But if you're consumed by the bread and circus all the time, that's what they want.
Yeah,
you
because
not
they
pay
can steal
attention
from behind your back while you're not paying attention.
Bingo.
But I'll go to my football qualifications. When I grew up, I played quarterback. Okay. So I'm an offensive minded quarterback. When I got to coaching, I became a defensive line coach and then a defensive coordinator because I know how to mess with quarterbacks. Now, I still have a brand new offensive playbook that I take from all the big plays I see that I know how to use from NFL, college. I have a full playbook on offense and a full playbook of mine on defense. And there are some defensive view plays I've ran that I know nobody's ever seen before. They're just different variations of things I've seen that actually counter. Like if you're doing a spread option, I have a defense actually designed to stop spread options all day, to take away the running game. That way I can make you one-dimensional. I learned how to exploit quarterbacks because their biggest weakness is pressure up the middle. So when I ran my D-line, there was a game in which we had 14 sacks and held them to negative yards, and most of it was from my two defensive tackles. I took over a game with my defensive line, and all of these guys went to college. I got all these guys from into college, into scholarships. I'm proud of those guys. They got degrees, they got families now. Those are good men, and I know I helped raise, and I'm proud of that.
And it's hard to come up with something new. Usually, like you said, things are a variation of a theme. Now,
Yes.
The Lions have been given credit for the trick play, what's become known as the stumble bum play. Did you see that game? I think it was against the Bears. Yeah,
I did.
That was brilliant. But I'm like, why did you waste that play on the Bears? You should have saved it for the Vikings, who you had to beat.
My thing is, I feel like as a coach, you have to have plays saved that you practice all year, but you don't use them until you absolutely, it's life or death. It's not even in regular season. It's like when we get to the playoffs, we're in the Super Bowl, we're down 3 with 10 minutes to play.
We are on the
extra set of first down. That's when I throw this play that we practice all year. We know it's going to work. No one's seen it, so no one knows what to do.
Right. Yeah, you and I are on the same page. I was like, I'm screaming at the TV because I had heard rumors of something, and after the game, Goff was interviewed and it said the coach asked him, can you purposefully bounce the ball back? That was the initial thought. I said, well, that's too risky. Well, let's fake fall, because that indeed confuses the defense. Is he falling? Is he down? Then
now you could fumble it to yourself. If you hit the fat part of the ball, it'll bounce straight back up.
Yeah, but it's
the
risky.
problem is trying to do that at 100 miles an hour, where you have guys trying to tackle you. Where if you misplay it any all, now you've just lost everything. You don't want to take the risk of the ball coming out of your hands. But again, why use it for the Bears, especially when you're up 30? You're winning. Just to make fun of them. Hey, look how good I am at designing plays. You might need that. They would have needed that against Washington. It could have helped get some points.
And that came out of the thinking from the previous year in the playoffs when Goff did literally trip over a lineman, but tossed the ball. His knee was actually down, but he wasn't touched. So it was still a valid forward pass. That was a legitimate fall that, oh my God, it managed to work. But that's what made him think, if we fake a fall, you'll throw people off.
Did you see what Andy Reid did 2 weeks ago where he latched it, threw it back to the running back, and the running back did the shuffle pass off of it? Like that little combination.
Yep.
I'm like, that threw the defense off route because you don't expect that shuffle off of a pulse. It was a beautiful idea of a play design.
The Lions have done that too. Yes, that's
and then of course, last week you also had they showed Nick Foles at the Philadelphia game and Tom Brady. I'm jealous of you because you caught the pass, I didn't, because they both ran a Philly special in their Super Bowl. The difference is Brady lost it, bounced off his hands going down the sidelines, and Foles caught his for the touchdown.
Yeah. And then the other thing too was in the playoff game that the Lions lost, they got desperate, so they tried a flea flicker variation. The wide receiver, he threw the. That's okay to try that, but if he's not open, don't throw it.
But the problem is, think who you're asking to do that to, the guy who never gets to throw the ball. So he's like, I get the chance to throw it. I got to make a play. If you go to your quarterback, the first thing he's thinking, look, I got to make sure I manage the game. This is a pick. We throw it out of bounds. The guy that's a wide receiver is thinking, oh, I get to throw the football. He doesn't think like a quarterback. So you really don't want to call that.
If you'd ingrained in him, only throw it if he's open. Otherwise, like you said, throw it out of bounds or just run it. It's got to be a run pass. It's got to be an RPO.
Yeah, the biggest problem with the Lions was they were just too beat up on defense. They had no way to stop anybody, so they were having to play touchdown, and that's fine until they got behind by more than 2 scores, and then you're having to force the ball so much you're going to get turnovers, and that's how the Commanders started taking over that game.
Yep. Absolutely, because I was happy. Oh, the Commanders, great. We get to see a team we hadn't played in a while, so that wasn't a bad thing. Hindsight's always 20/20. Now we would have rather not seen the Commanders.
You found the best. You found what is going to probably if Jaden Daniels keeps advancing, that's the best quarterback in the NFC. If he keeps improving, because the way he played football was not like a rookie. He looked like a good vet that knew how to play playoff football. He made the smart plays. He made touchdowns down the field. He used his legs. He didn't make bad throws because, it's not how many touchdowns he throw in the playoffs. It's how many turnovers. Lamar Jackson, he has a couple of turnovers. They lose the game. He outplayed Allen in the second half, but those 2 turnovers in the first half, those were the wound that killed him.
I forget. I think it may have been not important who the Lions played, but indeed they had 4 turnovers in the game, but yet still managed to come back and win. But
they were 4 golf picks. They were 4 golf picks, and that was one of the things because he was in the MVP running up until that game. And that 4 picks was like, yes, you won, but you can't let this happen again.
Exactly. In the playoffs, turnovers are deadly.
In the regular season, you can have turnovers because you have next week. Once you're in the playoffs, it's one and done 60 minutes. A turnover is an extra possession. It can be a point swing. Points off turnovers are huge. Like there's 3 things it takes to win a football game. Win the line of scrimmage, don't have turnovers, and no stupid penalties. Just playing smart football is those 3 things. Those are fundamentals.
And that's always been Lions football. I called it the Ford ownership curse until lately.
I don't know if it's the curse of Bobby Lane. I don't know what it is, but
it's the Ford ownership curse. Yeah.
But what's funny is it's funny. It's I've been watching football since Montana won the Super Bowl, right? Since the 80s, and so many teams are literally the same team they are now, just different personnel. Like the Niners play the same exact offense. They still play a West Coast offense. They still are known for mean defense. That's why every time they're healthy, they're in the playoff, deep in the playoffs. The Packers, they play the same. They always have a good quarterback. They've always played just the same style of football. They may have changed their offense a little bit here or there, but if you look at the way they play, it's like, wow, go find the Packers team under Lombardi and find one now, and you're like, they have the same similar. Pittsburgh, hard defense, aggressive defense, run the ball first. Quarterback is not who you need to be a superstar. If he is, you win Super Bowls. If he's not, you barely make the playoffs. But that's been their history. The Bears have always been, except for 85, has been, why? Like, that's the Bears.
Yeah, well, the Lions, I was going to say about the Lions, the biggest we've had some good coaches and some good front office people. We've had some great players come through, but it's always been the penalties at the worst time. Give the other team an extended run, or we got 4th and 1. Dumb penalty. It's now 4th and 6. Gotta punt it. Yeah,
changes the game.
Yeah,
and that's come down, and that is literally front office down. It's called being disciplined and being. You got to hold everybody accountable in an organization, in a country, everything. Everybody's got to be held accountable, and everybody's got to do their job. And when they don't do their job, that's when you get mistakes. And when you get those mistakes, that's what everybody pays for.
That's the perfect place to wrap it up. You kind of put a bow on it, brought it back to the beginning. Great. I was thinking, how am I going to bring it back, reel it in? Because we got so far down a rabbit hole this show normally doesn't go down. But so if people want to find you, how can they reach out to you?
On X, it's The Charlie Truth. On Facebook, it's Charles Thompson. My YouTube is where I'm trying to do a lot more videos because then I can produce them there because it's easy to produce. And I don't do anything but really like this, where you're behind me in my room, and then I can put them on X. I can put them on Facebook. I do have other social media. I am trying to get a Blue Ski account in the next little bit because I've got to reach everybody. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum. I got to reach everybody because I keep telling everybody, I'm the guy you want because I'll be the people's president. I'll actually do it right. I ran for Congress and lost a couple years ago, and then when I lost,
you got to start off.
Yeah. I ran the campaign of a lady that went all the way through the general election. I did a full campaign manager, and I have no experience in it, no schooling, and I did the whole thing in a congressional election for me, and then again for somebody else. So I got 2 congressional elections under my belt as a campaign strategist and campaign. Campaign manager, and I don't even have an expertise in it, but yet I know how to do it now because I've done 2 full ones.
Right. And I forgot the other thing I was going to say to kind of wrap it up, but Indeed. Oh, I know. You mentioned Blue Sky or Sky Blue. I just created an account a few months ago too. I don't get it. I'm on 20 different platforms. I don't get why people want to limit themselves.
I know. I think a lot of it is because some of these social media companies have claimed they're for free speech and they're not, and others actually are for free speech. I think there's the economics of them. Some of them pay more money for certain apps or this or that, depending on the amount of viewers and the amount of interaction you can get. I think there's a lot to it, and people understand it's a way to make money. It's also a way to grab information for people, and you can sell information for money. So
or
there's
propaganda.
A lot of absolutely. And there's a lot of like, do you trust Elon Musk holding X? Because, you see the things he lies about. You see the stuff he tells the truth about. But then again, you don't know what's what because it's just a jumble.
Yeah, I'm still banned on X because I dare talk about Tesla vehicle fires and his SpaceX government grant monies. Those are inconvenient things he doesn't want talked about.
If he don't want to talk about it, that means he doesn't really want free speech. He wants his speech free, not everybody else's. That's not freedom of speech. So
exactly.
I think that's why we're seeing so many is because people have done so many different things, and now they're going, well, I just don't want to hear this negativity or this lie or this or that. And so they basically put themselves in a box. And
echo chamber.
Just like them. Exactly. And now you're just, repeating what they tell you. You're not even learning because you're not taking in alternative information. And as I said, I take alternate information from every side, but my key is to vet it because I want the most actual honest information so I can make the most honest integral decision so that I can make a better person, make a better society.
All right. Well, we've run long.
I do that.
But it was it's like, I don't like to learn a lot about my guests because then it's a natural conversation. Mm-hmm. But indeed, I've had only one show where I thought, oh my God, this guy is so boring. If people tune into the show, they're never going to listen to me again. But beyond that, normally I could talk with you and other guests for 3 hours, but it would be too long.
And I've been on some that lasted that long. I'm not going to lie. I've been on some 2-3 hour podcasts where we talked that long.
I was on a show. It was the guy's very first podcast he did. I'll go on anybody's show if they want to talk to me about something, right? And we talked for 4 hours. By the end of that, I'm sure not even his family was tuned in anymore, right? Anyway, indeed, we've gone way long. So thank you, Charles Thompson, for coming. Charlie, it says on your Zoom there for those.
I go by Charlie.
Yeah, those seeing on BitChute, Brighteon, Daily Motion, Rumble, or YouTube behind the scenes sneak peek video. Charlie Thompson, thank you. Take care. God bless, brother.
You too, man.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come, but for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.